As your senator, building a modern transportation system will be one of my priorities because investing in transportation is investing in our people. For many working families, transportation isn't just about getting from one place to another. It's about opportunity. It's about keeping a job, getting an education, and building a better future. A strong economy depends on a strong middle class, and a strong middle class depends on having the tools people need to succeed. That's why transportation matters. When workers can get to work reliably, business can grow. When businesses grow, jobs are created. And when jobs are created, families thrive. Imagine a Guam where opportunity is within reach for everyone. I'm Donna Munikanata, and I approve this message.
Please re-elect Senator Shelley Calvo, number 8 on the Republican side of the ballot. She has served Guam with compassion, integrity, and results. She is rooted in service, guided by balance, and driven by community. She cares.
This is Shelley Calvo, and I approve this message.
The more I think about the budget that the legislature in Guam has been deliberating over the past couple of weeks, the more I become upset. So it's a good thing that today is Sunday, and today was a day that I got to have a little bit of a reset from the type of person I am. You know, I'm very like my angst, my anxiety, my passion about certain things will get the best of me. And so this being the Lord's day, it's the Holy Spirit coming upon me to help me, to temper me down. Because the more I thought about it, the more I thought, what is wrong with these guys? And so in putting pen to paper today, the editorial team, you know, we don't issue editorials very often anymore. Only on issues that we feel very strongly about and we believe will serve a great public purpose. We decided today that we were going to issue an editorial to slam the budget and to slam, for the most part, the Republican senators and by the way, they're voting on this budget tomorrow. They've ended all debate on this budget. And there are so many provisions in it that do not meet their promise, their campaign promises, and their platitudes to us over the past couple of years about serving the best interests of the people of Guam, serving the common interests. All that has come about from the deliberation, from what we were able to watch, not just what was said, but what wasn't said during this budget period, during this budget deliberation, was most senators yielding to big business interests and having us pay for that yield. So I want to read to you our editorial that we're going to publish later tonight from Kandit News, and then after that bring you at least a portion of the session where we talked about one of these things that's a significant thing. Goes to the Republican promise to fight the drug problem, to do something about the meth epidemic. In the budget session, they had an opportunity to do just that, and they chose big business instead. We'll get to these things on the other side. We're going to... It's not just these things. I'm highly disappointed in this Republican majority. We'll get to that on the other side of this commercial break. Stick with us.
He has that innate talent of even the most difficult times, giving comfort, giving solace, bringing stability. In my 64 years, there are people I've known that have passed away, and there's been Tony that has been there to comfort the family and the loved ones, sometimes the most difficult times of their lives. He could better this community as a public servant, but bring people together, even people with divergent thoughts and philosophies, but in the end, bringing enough comfort, enough stability to a situation that there's a consensus and then resolution and progress then is made. So, I'm so excited. I've seen what a great job Tony's done now back in the legislature. But I do believe that with him as governor, that ability to bring people together, to bring folks even with different perspectives together, it's what this island needs. God bless Atacalvo 2026. God bless Guam.
I'm Tony Atta, and I approve this message.
Transportation, tourism, customs, utilities, and federal and foreign affairs touch every family, every business, every day. Jesse Michael Anderson Lujan believes Guam can be greater together by fighting for cabotage exemption, expanding the Philippine visa waiver program, and opening new doors for tourism investment and opportunity. Vote Jesse Lujan. Leadership you can see. Accountability you can trust.
I'm Jesse Michael Anderson Lujan, and I approve this message.
This past year, we've been focused on moving Guam forward, strengthening oversight in our schools, supporting our veterans, standing up for students and families, and working on policies that open doors for our people. For me, public service has never been about headlines. It's about showing up, listening carefully, and doing the work that matters. There's still more to accomplish, and I'm ready to keep pushing ahead. I'm Senator Vince Borja, and I humbly ask for your continued support.
The 38th Guam Legislature has become a tool of special interest, big business, and an utterly useless check on the administration's expanding power and corruption. Senatorial platitudes about clean government, fiscal responsibility, and putting the people of Guam first have proved to be gimmickry. Budget deliberations over the past week have shown that for most Republican lawmakers, their loyalty lies not with the everyday Guamanian who trusted them to be different, but with powerful business interests. Tomorrow, the legislature will vote on a budget that serves big business interests, transferring hundreds of millions of public dollars to the largest corporations while stripping away safeguards that protect taxpayers from corruption. They will reduce the business privilege tax for the largest corporations from 4.5% to 4% of gross receipts. Most senators rejected efforts by Tello Taidagui to at least tax military buildup contractors at the higher rate. These companies are not from Guam. Their profits don't stay here. Allowing that money to leave the island is among the worst economic and tax policies these senators could have devised. Absolutely stupid. The annual revenue erosion from the Republican campaign that began in 2025 to drop the BPT for the largest corporations amounts to about $80 million. While they fought tooth and nail for big business to get that money, they fought just as hard to ensure funding needed for people living with disabilities, patients in need of rehabilitation, and supplies and medicines for the Guam Memorial Hospital would be displaced from the budget and perhaps taken up in a supplemental budget. We also know where much of that tax cut is likely to trickle down. Campaign finance reports. The proposed budget now contains a rider by William Parkinson that removes the automatic stay on procurement protests. Mr. Parkinson says he never intended for his amendment to interfere with the existing Simon Sanchez High School protest, but nothing in his amendment states that the proposed statute would only apply moving forward. He has acknowledged that omission and promised to propose a future fix. By then, it will be too late. If the automatic stay is removed from the SSHS procurement, administration officials have already informed senators under oath that they will award the contract to Cortec, and the contract will be to pay Cortec $524 million over the next 32 years. That's $80 million in tax cuts for big business, and another $524 million committed to one of, if not the, largest companies on Guam through a mortgage today's children will still be paying decades from now. But that's not the end of the tally. Senators, without any justification, approved a rider to increase the three quotes procurement threshold from $24,999 to $250,000 under the guise of efficiency. In most GovGuam agencies, purchases of $25,000 or more generally must go through competitive procurement, either by invitation for bid or request for proposals. Below that threshold, agencies can simply obtain three price quotes and award the purchase to the lowest bidder. If the annual price tag for the products or services is below that amount, then agency officials can simply call or email 3 businesses to get price quotes and go with the lowest quote. That system is a breeding ground for cronyism and corruption. The argument given for approving this monumental change was that it would make it easier for the government to procure. In the law of cause and effect, if you cause an easier process for public officials to spend money, the effect will be that more of our money will be spent improperly or corruptly. The senators have seen media coverage and audits concerning bid splitting and even the irregularities of contracts throughout government agencies to a business connected directly to Lieutenant Governor Joshua Tenorio. Some have expressed outrage. Republicans have been promising to hold an investigation into certain scandals. All hot air. When push came to shove, when they had the opportunity in this budget bill to stop the administration from gaining even more latitude over taxpayer dollars, the Republicans got on all fours. But then again, if they're willing to give away $600 million of our money in just one fiscal year to big business, why should we expect them to care whether a corrupt administration is empowered by weaker fiscal controls and greater opacity in the spending of public funds? To add insult to injury and just really stick their contempt for the common people in our faces, the Republicans also had an opportunity to make good on another campaign promise, to fight the meth epidemic, but chose business interests instead. A proposed amendment by Therese Terlahi to fix loopholes in the customs seal container law by, among other changes, increasing fines on businesses that break the customs seal on uninspected containers failed. The senators who voted against this amendment are the same ones who constantly talk up a good game about how they're going to be tough on drugs and will fight to keep meth out of this island. Well, here was their chance to put their words into action, and instead they chose business interests over closing a loophole that could help stop drug smuggling. For 4 decades, we've been told that funneling more wealth to those who already have it would somehow lift everyone else up. We weakened worker protections. We used the law to neuter unions. We worked 2 and 3 jobs for wages the business community insisted couldn't be raised. Yet, we're poorer, older, and more exhausted than before. The middle class is disappearing while the gap between rich and poor keeps widening. And the answer from senators is to give the wealthy even more? This budget asks ordinary taxpayers to absorb the costs while concentrating the benefits among a small number of powerful private interests, and it makes no sense at all. And so if big business is who Republicans and some Democrats want to serve, then fine. Just don't expect ordinary people to make you our priority at election time. If government and tax dollars are merely transactional, then we can transact too. We'll trade you in for better models. Vote no on this big business budget, senators. This is Kandit's latest editorial. I believe this is only our 4th editorial of the year. And we'll publish that later tonight. And I ask if you could kindly share it as soon as we publish it, whether you're sharing it from our WhatsApp channel, sharing it on Facebook, the abbreviated version on Instagram, and of course, more importantly, the share from our website, www.kanditnews.com. And what I hope is that in this editorial, we've captured your voice as well, that we've captured your concern as well. And I don't know if you've been paying attention to what's been happening with the budget. If you've been watching Kandit for the past several days, then you've been paying attention because we've been bringing you a great deal of this. But when we started this coverage, I started off by saying, I get it. Like, I get that it's right to keep your promises. And I was talking about the Republicans in keeping their promise to lower the BPT to 4%. They already kept 50% of their promise last budget year when they reduced it from 5% to 4.5%. And now, they've gone to reduce it to 4%, right? And I said that I understand that. But what I question is whether it was right, it was the ethical thing to do to make that promise in the beginning. But notwithstanding that, at the very least, Republicans, at the very least, if you're going to reduce the BPT from 5 to 4, if you're going to erode all those revenues or whatever, okay, whatever, right? Maybe the biggest businesses on this island should skate on that 1%. Okay, fine, whatever. What about the military build-up contractors who aren't even from here? Who are you guys? You are Guam senators. You're not senators from the state of Minnesota or Hawaii or Alaska or Oregon, California or Texas. You are Guam senators. Your interests, you are supposed to be serving our interests, not the interests of companies that are anchored in other places who are making money from the military buildup. That, by the way, the military is paying for these taxes. You want to give these guys a tax break because you want to give them more money. Why do you want to give these off-island companies more money? Why do you want to take money away from us and give it to them? Because don't you think the military buildup has already taken enough from us? For crying out loud? Who are you serving, Republicans? Why wouldn't you at least let that Telo Taitigui amendment pass? It makes no sense whatsoever. Except that maybe you guys are in their pockets. And you guys say that you're going to have an investigation about the corruption. You never do anything about it. You guys say that you're against this thing or that the administration, whatever. But when it comes time for you to act on those words, you're either silent or you're against this stuff. It's absolutely ludicrous. I hope you guys lose the majority. Truly. Yeah, and that'd be the saddest thing because you guys would have had, I think it would be the shortest majority in the history of this island if you guys only had the majority for one term. All because you could not keep yourselves from showing your true colors, your interest for these big businesses rather than for us who are the ones suffering and struggling through it all. Anyway, before I go any further with that, let's bring you the more footage. The last time we'll show you footage from the legislature. There's a lot that they discussed, right? But I'm trying to bring you, the parts that that really should resonate with us, right? The next thing I'm going to show you is a series of amendments that Therese Terlahi tried to bring through, and it has to do with something that we've covered as well. The customs seal. The breaking of the customs seal. It's the law about the breaking of the customs seal. And we recently did a bunch of stories about this because of a connection that Josh Tenorio's sister, Charissa Tenorio, has to an investigation that was done about the breaking of a customs seal on a container at a construction yard for a construction company that sourced its cement from South Korea, which in itself was weird. But the town or the place, the city that it came from is literally on the demilitarized zone. And if anybody knows anything about current drug events, North Korea is one of the chief suppliers of methamphetamine to the world. So let's play this section. And you would, I assumed that this stuff would pass because this is right up Republican rally. This is the kind of thing that Republicans live for and talk about. Is, we're gonna be hard on drugs and we're gonna get drugs out of here. This was a real a real way of addressing the importation issue, and they said no. Unbelievable. Anyway, so and it's because of business interests. That's all it is. This is their true color, business interests. Let's play it. Just to be sure, some of the amendments passed.
Correction, colleagues, my packet was missing one for some reason. So you're correct. TMT P174V. Senator Terlahi, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You'll notice there's about 5 provisions or floor amendments that talk about customs. The last one is a criminal statute, but the first 4, including this one we're on right now, these are regarding the civil statutes and the civil penalties and the civil requirements. So the first one, and these are all the subject of a bill that did have a public hearing. We do receive the full support of Customs. In fact, they sent in a couple minor changes, which we have incorporated as well. And I don't recall any objection to that bill at the hearing. So the First Amendment is just reiterating that Customs can put holds on containers, and when it does, it will control where those containers will go, whether they will be held there on the premises or they can be allowed to be transferred by the director to a Customs designated secured facility. And so it's just making that language a little bit more tighter, because later on, the next one is to increase the penalties for violation. So we want the language to be very, very clear as to what the requirements are, or who can exempt anyone from those requirements. And just for a little background, this came to my attention because there was a story in the news about a container that had been moved, not at the direction of Customs, but at the director of someone else, and calling up and saying that allow that container to be moved. And then, sure enough, when Customs finally got to that container, it was already opened. And of course, the question always exists: if these containers are put on hold by Customs for any reason, it's because maybe they suspect contraband. And if they're opened before Customs can get there to inspect them, then we have no idea whether there was or was not contraband, whether it's been distributed to our community already. So this was the subject of an investigation. And and then we did, of course, check the Customs at the background and how was their enforcement going. And the reason that they supported the bill was because they said they could use all the backup that they could get in regards to these enforcements and these policies. And they do believe that this will deter and help them to stop. Particularly, was very interested in the drugs coming in, but they said all contraband. So the First Amendment is pretty much on subsection B, just reiterating other parts of the statute that say that there shall be a hold, and this one gives the director the authority to transfer or remove to a Customs designated secured facility, and those are already established. I want to make one technical amendment, and that is in subsection B, 1, 2, 3, about the fourth line in the middle, there's the word shall. That's a typo, and that needs to be deleted. So can I just make that amendment right now to delete the word shall? There's a may up ahead, before that, so it's a may, the director may.
So there...
Yes, just delete the word shall.
So there is no may here, so it will just...
Yeah, in the beginning of that line, it says...
may under, okay.
Yeah, may under the director of Customs be transferred.
So line through the shall.
Yes, please.
After Customs. On the amendment to the amendment, any objections? Senator Lujan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I rise in support of this amendment. I just have an amendment to the amendment as well. It's on section B as well, line 1, 2, 3, 4, after the Director of Customs. That was just amended. Director of Customs, just comma, to add Chief of Customs, comma, or their designee.
Senator, I'm going to go ahead and dispose of this amendment and then recognize you and
thank you.
Give you the time to be able to proffer that, because that would be amending the amendment.
Thank you.
So let's dispose of this motion. Any objections on the amendment to the amendment? Hearing and seeing none, amendment passes. Senator Terlaje, you still have the floor.
All right, I'll yield the floor for this First Amendment. Thank you.
So Senator Lujan, I'll recognize you at this time for your comments as well as moving your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I'm in full support of this amendment, but I'm adding an amendment to the amendment on line 4, where after the Director of Customs be a comma Chief of Customs, comma, or their designee, and then shall be transferred.
Senator, can you repeat that amendment once again?
On line 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, starting from?
After Director of Customs.
Okay.
Comma. Chief of Customs, comma.
You're adding Chief of Customs?
Yes, adding Chief of Customs, comma, adding or their designee.
Comma.
Chief
or
of Customs.
Their designee. Does everybody understand the amendment to the amendment?
I just have a point of inquiry as it relates to the amendment.
Yes.
I just want to know if the author of the amendment can share if the director and the chief, are they two different people?
What message?
Senator Lujan, do you yield to the question, is the chief different than the director?
Yes, he is.
Chief? Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there is.
I just wanted to make sure.
There's a director and then there's a chief, yes.
Then there's the chief.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. On the amendment, does everybody understand the amendment? Is there any objections to the amendment? Amendment carries. Clerks, you're good, right? Okay. Anything else, Senator Lujan?
Yes, and also the amendment also to the container freight station or approved provisional inspection site.
Please explain where that amendment would go, Senator.
That would be 1, 2, I'm looking at my amendment here. Can I have a 1 minute recess?
Yeah, you know what, Senator? You'll have to have somebody else proffer that amendment. That would be your third amendment to the amendment.
Thank you.
So please ask somebody else to proffer it.
Thank you.
So, yes. So, Senator Lujan's been recognized. We'll take a 1 minute recess. It would take the will of the body to amend the amendment more than twice. The amendment's been amended twice. Is there an objection to amending the amendment once again? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Tadegui, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I thank my colleagues for allowing this other particular amendment, which is in consultation with John Rick Mendiola of Customs, who's been working with the Oversight Chair regarding a specific area because the language was considered too broad and they wanted to zone it in on one particular area. So, colleagues, saving a tree here, go to the second to the last sentence that was underlined. So I'm going to take you from customs designated secured facilities to a designated place, and this is where you're going to insert the amendment, container, freight station, comma, or approved provisional inspection site. Then it goes back to prior to official release from customs custody. Again, we are inserting after place on the second to the last line of the amendment, container, place, container, freight station, comma, or approved provisional inspection site, and continuing with prior to official release from customs custody. And that's the amendment.
On the amendment, and both movers, Senator Lujan, Senator Tadegui, to help the clerks and legal, please, since you wrote that out, unless there's any objection on the floor, bring that forward to the clerks and legal so that they can engross properly. On the amendment, to the amendment as approved by the floor, any discussion? Any objection? Seeing and hearing none. Amendment to the amendment passes. Colleagues, please, as a courtesy to everyone, and I understand, if you have proposed amendments when a mover is moving, please ask for a recess so that we can do the amendments at once, working with the author. But I think we're, being cordial, which is good, made the amendment better. But please, as we go forward, if you have language that you know that you're going to be moving, particularly when you hear the mover already amend the amendment, please ask for a recess and we can do it all at once. Thank you for your cooperation. On the motion, as amended, Senator Vice Speaker Ada, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and perhaps the author of the amendment, as amended and amended, further amended, would yield to a question. Who will pay for the movement of the container to and also from storage or placement of the container? And if the container needs to be returned to the shipping company, who will pay for that as well?
Does the author of the amendment yield?
My amendment,
yes.
Sir? Yes,
correct.
Sure. Okay, yes. This amendment will not alter any of the parties who are responsible for payment of moving anywhere. They normally are doing it at their request, the consumer or the company's request, that Customs is allowing it. So they're applying to Customs for permission to move it normally, and if that is granted, that is going to be at their expense, not Customs expense, if that's what you're asking. Yeah.
So then the other question should be, should it be in this in the amended in the amendment that all fees associated with movement of the container to and from or held, or any overage in having the container held over the X number of days, be bared by the consignee and not the agency?
Is that a question?
Yes.
Is he asking?
Is that a motion, Senator, or Vice Speaker, or is that a yield of a question?
It's a yield of question.
Senator Tidegui, or Tulay, you're
Sure. Yes. Again, nothing in the bill that had the public hearing was intended to change any of the responsible parties or move the costs anywhere, except it remains on those parties who are either the recipients of the material or however they have designated it already. We are not going to include Customs as bearing any of those costs that were in fact, absolutely not. So when they create their own like container freight station or a provisional inspection site, that's all on the company creating that provisional inspection site to have it up to specs, to have Customs inspected and approve of it, and then on a case-by-case, a director may allow them to use it. And they do this right now. So for example, there are certain industries that import all the time, I think grocery stores, and so they have their own provisional inspection site that Customs is already, they already operate like this. So they've already approved some of these. They fit the specs that Customs wants, and but the story I was telling is that they had moved it not to one of those places, to just a kind of another site that had not met any of the Customs protections or requirements, and so this just makes it a little stricter, that you can move it only to where Customs allows you to move it, and only at their authority. It makes no wiggle room for anyone else authorizing you to move it for any reason.
Vice Speaker, you recognize.
Thank you. That answers my questions. Thank you for the yielding to the questions.
On the motion, on the amendment, anyone else wish to speak? Seeing and hearing none, would you like to close?
I'll yield closing.
Yield closing. Any objection to the amendment? Amendment carries.
Thank you.
Amended multiple times. You're welcome. The next amendment is, hopefully this is correct now, I believe it will be, TMT P174 VI, 5I, 51. Senator Tulay, you recognize.
Mrs. Masi. All right, so this is just another section of the same statute that already exists where there's a penalty for disobeying Customs, but that penalty was $25,000. And as you know, the value of the freight that's actually in there, or even the contraband, might far exceed $25,000. And so this increases that civil fine up to $100,000. Well, actually, it says a fine not less than $100,000 and the seizure of the cargo involved. And it allows the Director of Customs to actually enforce this through the Department of Revenue and Taxation. So it allows them through Revenue Tax to file a request to suspend or revoke the violator's business license and or garnishment of any tax returns. Right now, under the statute, they're allowed to revoke their business license, but this just puts in the process, and on the back it tells you, it kind of pushes them more towards that. And if there's more than one violation, then there's an increased penalty. So this again is just to back up customs more, so that when they tell you you can't do that, there's an impact if you violate what they say. And it really backs up the directors. As you know, the directors change, and they're put into this very difficult position to really try to revoke somebody's business license for violating, the customs orders. And so this lays out very clearly what will be expected of the businesses, and only violators are going to be impacted by this amendment, by an increased fine, and on a second or third violation, the increased penalties, including revocation of business license. So I asked my colleagues for their support. Again, this was full support of Customs, and they want this.
On the amendment, anybody wish to speak on the amendment? Senator Lujan, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I respectfully, again, oppose this amendment, and in consultation as well, working closely with CQA. We appreciate the intent of this amendment, Mr. Chair. We all want, of course, our borders to be secured, strengthen, of course, customs enforcement, and ensure that imported merchandise is properly regulated. But this amendment does not reflect the logistical realities of ocean freight shipping or the practical operations of our local business community. The amendment will require any container placed on hold to remain strictly within the customs designated secure facility until inspection is complete. It would also create serious penalties, including heavy fines and even the possibility of revocation of a business license if a cargo seal is found to be compromised. The problem, Mr. Chair, is the chain of custody for cargo container is largely outside of Guam's control until that container actually arrives on our shores. Let's take the real-world example. A shipment of essential goods may begin in North Carolina. The container is packed and sealed at a warehouse, then picked up by a trucker. From there, it may be moved to a rail depot, transferred across the mainland United States, taken to a West Coast port, loaded onto a vessel, moved through a transshipment port, and then finally shipped across the Pacific to Guam. During that journey, Mr. Chair, there are 1,000 miles of travel, multiple handoffs, rail movements, crane lifts, vessel transfers, and harsh ocean conditions. Along the way, there may be opportunities for a seal to crack, wear down, break, or be altered without the knowledge of the fault of the local importer. Holding Guam businesses liable for something they may have happened thousands of miles away is not fair and is not a sound policy. Revoking a business license is the death penalty for that particular company. We should not impose that level of punishment on a local importer unless there is clear evidence of wrongdoing, negligence, or intentional misconduct. If we pass this amendment as written, Mr. Chair, we will increase the cost and risk of doing business here on Guam. Shipping companies, wholesalers, distributors, and local merchants will be forced to price in that risk. That cost will not disappear, Mr. Chair. It will be passed on to consumers. That means higher prices for groceries, construction materials, household goods, and other essential items that our families already struggle to afford, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairman, we can protect our borders without punishing honest local businesses for circumstances that may be beyond their control, And we can strengthen customs enforcement without creating a system that treats every compromised seal as proof of wrongdoing by the Guam importer. Our policies, of course, must be tough, but they also must be fair. This amendment, as written, is not fair to the business community and not fair to the people of Guam who ultimately pay. So in that regard, Mr. Chair, I respectfully oppose this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. On the amendment, anybody wish to speak on the amendment? Senator Perez and then Senator San Agustin. Senator Perez, you're recognized.
Okay. So basically how I'm reading this is already in law. It exists that the business license, there is already in law that provides for suspension of the business license of principles involved in violation of this section, 1 year, and it just says 1 year. And so the suspension's already there, and the way it's worded, it's like in the event, so there shall be a fine of 100,000 and the confiscation of cargo involved. And so the added language is seized cargo meeting entry will only be released after payment of fine or reasonable payment arrangements are made in good faith. And so it also adds a buffer in some ways. In the event the payment arrangement is breached, the Director of Customs may file a request with DRT to suspend. So there is language here that I think helps to improve the existing law, because otherwise it's an automatic suspension. And yeah, so already in law it exists that they are going to confiscate. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. This added language allows some sort of leeway, I think, if I'm reading it correctly, that the customs director may file a request to suspend. So I think, yes, it's important when we're looking at, in general, right, when we're talking about violations, I think it's important to see, there's some factors involved, and I think this gives them that ability to look at that. I think the other thing, the importance of this amendment is that, with the meth crisis, these are for violators, right? And then if you're a business that's following the law, then you should be fine. And, I think it helps to cover loopholes. It closes loopholes. And when we talk about if things are traveling across the U.S., I mean, those are, opportune times to slip in something, right? So we want to be very clear that, whoever is transporting these things, that they need to be sure that, these things are sacrosanct, right? They're not broken. The seals are not broken. And the other thing, when we look at criminal, violations, there are increased consequences with increased violations. And so that's what the current law does not have. So there are elements in this amendment that allows for some flexibility and consideration, but it also balances that it's increasing the consequences with increased infractions. So that's what I just wanted to add as I'm reading this, that to allay the fears, right, of what was stated earlier by the retiring speaker, I think it does provide that leeway. So just some thoughts. Thank you.
On the amendment, Senator San Agustin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I read this amendment, I'm just trying to clearly understand what they're trying to get at. I mean, even the first paragraph, should the seal in a cargo container or cargo be broken or tampered with prior to sufficient release from customs? Then it says, except under the direction of the customer that the person or firm has accepted. I put for both you as the company that owns the container, if you accept it and it's broken, the seal, let customs first fix that, determine where it was broken. Don't accept it and then worry about the fines. And then it goes further down. 100,000, gosh, from 25, jump to 100. Okay, I'm not gonna, I guess it could have its value based on what's in the cargo. But then when it goes down in the seized cargo meeting entry will only be released after payment of a fine or reasonable payment arrangements are made in good faith. They wrote a check. In the event payment arrangement is breached, how you breach when you just got a check or you just got paid? I'm trying to understand, how do you breach something when you already made the arrangement? It's got to go through the process. It just doesn't happen within 24 hours that it's breached. So, and then to ask, and you know, the previous speaker said that there's already a mechanism to suspend when they need to suspend. You know, like was said earlier, I smell a rat. Let's say the director of customs could be a very, very serious guy or girl and say, you know what? We need more money in our what's that? What they call that? Fines and penalties revolving fund, the custom inspection funds. Because it goes further down, is that they even striked out the no expenditure shall be made from customs inspection fund except by appropriation. Oh, because you got full control of all your money. I look quick. So let's see how much money we can get from every vendor that's coming in and see which business we should recommend they should be suspended. I thought we were supposed to help businesses. You know, I support business because keeping business in business impacts our economy. To question it and to put all the regulations you want, but don't be willing to start chopping them down. Then it talks about, I'm just watching my time, so I'm good. First violation, waived in writing by the director. How can waive? Everything is all customs. Custom is a very powerful group of folks. I understand that. Shoot, when you arrive on Guam, even to the regular airlines, they inspect your cargo, they find something, got to know. You go, you're taken in. You do the same thing down at the Port Authority. If they find something, if you already accept control of that container, baby, it's yours, whatever happens after that. You can't run away from that. But if it comes off the boat and the seal is broken and the customs saw that, and you as the consignee is outside waiting to, hey, I got a container came in, yes sir, but are you willing to accept it? And not being told the seal is broken, you're liable. You guys are in control at the port. You tell me the seal is broken, you find out where it was broken, at what point it was determined. Don't put it on me as the person that wants to accept the container. That wouldn't be fair on the business. Oh yeah, you know there's a lot of factors here involved, and I can understand why the oversight chair and custom is objecting to it, because I think we need to massage it a little bit better. I agree we need to increase the penalties. I agree we need to get involved in this, but failure to satisfy the assessed fine shall result in confiscation, forfeiture, and disposal of cargo. You know, as a compliance supervisor for revenue tax, when we go into bars and we confiscate all their alcohol, you know what the beauty of that one? You never can get it back. We write a letter straight to the judge, the Attorney General's office, and the judges, request for disposal. We don't call the business owner and say, go and ask the court to get it back. No, it's gone. When we confiscate it, it's gone. Now with this one, to satisfy the fine, but you want to do garnishment? Now we're starting to act like GMH. If you don't pay your bill, you're going to garnish from you. Go through the process. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have a nice day.
On the amendment, anyone else wish to speak on the amendment? Senator Parkinson, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in opposition to this amendment because it attempts to amend the Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations directly through legislation. This is not merely
Point of
a
order,
drafting.
Mr. Chair. It does not.
This is not merely a drafting preference. It is a question of orderly government, legal clarity, and public participation and institutional competence. The legislature writes laws. We write the law. Administrative agencies implement the law through rules and regulations. When we disregard that distinction and begin rewriting the GAR directly on the floor, we blur the line between statute and regulation, and we create unnecessary legal uncertainty. Guam already has an established process for adopting and amending administrative rules under the Administrative Adjudication Law. That's codified in 5 GCA Chapter 9. And that process exists for a reason. I probably should have spoke up on the previous amendment.
Point of information, Mr. Chair.
State your point of information.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the speaker is referencing. We are amending in this amendment 73143 of Chapter 73, Title 5, Guam Code annotated.
Senator Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A floor amendment does not have the same safeguards as going through the proper public policy procedures. We do not have a complete administrative record before us. We do not have the benefit of a formal agency rulemaking process. We do not know whether every affected stakeholder has received notice. We do not know whether the agency has evaluated the amendment's enforcement consequences or any of the consequences from these changes. Fiscal effects, technical feasibility, or interactions with the rest of the regulatory code. We may be voting on language that sounds simple in isolation, but creates conflicts elsewhere. This is precisely why the administrative rulemaking is deliberative. The legislature should establish the controlling policy in the Guam Code annotated. We write the laws. The agency should then adopt the technical and operational rules necessary to carry out that policy, subject to public participation, legal review, executive review, and legislative oversight. This amendment reverses that process. It asks the legislature to perform the agency's technical rulemaking function without the agency record.
Point of information, Mr. Chair. It's not
Say
making
your point of
sense. We are
information.
amending Title 5 Guam Code annotated Section 73143. We are amending a law.
Point of order.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Please identify.
Point of information is to inquire for information. This is a deliberative and debating process. Let the individual senator finish. If there's a
Point taken, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Senator Parkinson, you're recognized.
Regardless of what of these many, many amendments trying to amend the GAR do, there's a principle on how we do these things. We, the legislature, make the laws, write the laws, edit the laws. The agencies come up with the policies to fit those laws. Not us do it ourselves. Directly legislating into the GAR can also freeze technical requirements into law. Administrative rules often concern forms, procedures, deadlines, inspections, reporting requirements, technical definitions, licensing standards, and operational details. There's so many things that go into the administrative rules. Those requirements may need to change as technology, industry practice, federal requirements, or agency capacity changes. Operating in this manner does not create efficient government. It's not transparent. It creates rigidity. The appropriate approach is straightforward. If the amendment author believes that existing policy is inadequate, then direct the responsible agency to promulgate conforming rules under 5 GCA Chapter 9. Set a deadline. Identify the subjects that the rules must address. Require reporting to the legislature. Then review the proposed rules when they are transmitted. This preserves the legislature's policymaking authority. And I'm out of time, but thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Parkinson. On the amendment, Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to speak on the amendment, which, again, for the record, amends the Guam Code annotated. You know, I thought we were all on the same page about this crystal methamphetamine epidemic. But day by day in this budget process, I've been proven wrong as we choose to prioritize the 0.5% BPT rollback and that $40 million going to the big businesses in Part 2 of the BPT rollback. And yet we've left unfunded services for those struggling with substance abuse. We've tried to explain to the people of Guam why we need less police on the streets, less customs officers on the streets. But what this amendment does is it addresses entry point for crystal methamphetamine and other contraband to come into Guam. You know, coming from the media, I interviewed Director Ike Pareto many times. And Director Pareto, customs officials, the Attorney General, Homeland Security investigations, all of them are in agreement that there's definitely crystal methamphetamine coming in from the Port Authority, but they haven't been able to crack the case, so to speak. And I'm sure there are many reasons why they're unable to. You know, in talking with federal law enforcement, one problem that they have is our community is very tight-knit, and it's very hard for them to get incriminating information, intelligence from even people that they capture bringing in meth, because the dealers that they're working for are, I guess, taking such good care of them that they don't want to tattletale, and they'd rather go to jail and serve out 5-10 years in prison than snitch on the man. And so I appreciate the efforts of the good senator and gentle lady from Jotnya, because she is taking the bull by the horns on this issue. And if you follow along with any of her bills that she's proffered relative to customs and the container sanctity and the whole process for the penalties, it's very similar to other work that she's done in identifying a problem and systematically working towards the actual solutions. And I get it, you know, the politics of personality in this hall. Sometimes ideas, amendments, bills are just going to be opposed, not for the substance that's contained in them, but they're going to be opposed simply because of who is putting these ideas and these solutions forward. And that, I think, is a real impediment to the progress that our people want to see. If we go out there and we talk to the people of Guam and ask them, do you think that we should penalize businesses with broken container seals, they're going to say yes, because, again, we're trying to combat this crystal methamphetamine epidemic. They do this in other jurisdictions. But the fear-mongering that's occurred this entire budget session, it's just frustrating. I mean, I'm almost going to fracture my eyeballs rolling my eyes at some of the things that are said in here, like saying that saying that entertaining passing any of these amendments is going to lead to us paying more for groceries. That's ridiculous. These are meaningful solutions being put forth by the good senator, and again, just the logic, the deflection, the red herrings that we're hearing here on the floor. Never mind who's proffering the amendment. Let's discuss the merits of the ideas and the solutions. And I think that they're worthy of passage, especially when you consider how much damage our island has suffered at the hands of the crystal methamphetamine epidemic and the lack of political willpower to meaningfully address it for our people, Mr. Chair.
On the amendment, anyone else wish to speak on the amendments? Vice Speaker Ada, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And perhaps maybe just some clarification. You know, when I'm reading this here in section 73143, release of sealed cargo, are we talking about the seal on as the container was shipped onto the island, or are we talking about the customs seal? And I think that needs to be clarified, because I think there's sometimes a misunderstanding of what we mean by seal. And if the author would yield, which seal is she referring to on the release of sealed cargo?
Would the author yield?
Yes, and I want to thank my colleague for the question. It really shows that he understands what Customs is dealing with. Two different seals. One on shipping containers that seems to be not mandatory on Guam for some reason, and one that Customs puts on, the customs seals. So as you notice in this amendment, the non-underlined portion, that already exists in law. It already says, should the seal on the container. So we went through this whole process, and Customs believes this is relative to customs seals only. Well, I don't want to speak for them, but they interpret this for customs seals, I think. And however, there is another law that precedes this 73143, which is 73142, and it says, release of sealed cargo. The seal on a container or cargo shall neither be broken nor tampered with, except under the direction of a customs inspector, or until such container or cargo has otherwise been officially released from customs custody. So all of those mandates of the seals are just an existing law, and but they believe, I just don't like to speak for them, but their testimony was that this is customs seals. Yes.
And I think that's very important to understand, because as a shipping container is shipped from the United States or wherever the originating port is, it has a seal on it. It's a seal that's not as rigid or as sturdy that perhaps it should be. And all it does is has a tag number on it, and it indicates that the container was sealed at the port of origin prior to shipping. And sometimes those seals do break in transit, and it's unfortunate. The other seal, and that's why I asked for clarification, is the customs seal. And that's when the customs place a hold on a container, and they place this, it's almost like a deadbolt on it, a bolt that you can't remove unless you take some bolt cutters and cut it off. Now, that is placed on customs upon arrival, and they feel that your cargo needs to be inspected, and they place a hold on it. Now, if this, and I think maybe the sections of law actually need to be really clear, because if this is just the seal that the container was originally sealed with as it left its port of origin, this fine of $100,000 is really excessive, because sometimes the cargo that comes in, the value of the cargo is less than $100,000, and an individual would perhaps say, well, if the penalty is going to be $100,000, I just won't claim the container. Then not only are we going to have an issue of goods and products that may rise in cost because of this unfortunate, what do you call it, unintended consequences, that we really need to be clear so that these are the things that we're not putting into law that would actually hinder and perhaps even increase the cost of goods coming into Guam, because now this section of law has been changed. So before we, really look at putting these type of penalties and seizures of the cargo, that we make sure that we're on the right section of the law and that we're doing it in the right way, just to avoid unfortunate circumstances that cargo is being held or cargo is being confiscated, and actually that was not the intent to do because of a seal that, and maybe this section might be the seal that the container is shipped in, or is it the previous section of law that is the customs seal? And I just really like to get that clarification in order to find the support for this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
On the amendment, anyone else wish to speak on the amendment? Seeing and hearing none, the mover may close.
Thank you. There's a lot of, arguments being made. I'd like to try to clarify them if they are open to hearing what I have to say. I am not amending what the law prohibits. The law already prohibits any breaking or tampering with seals on a container or cargo. That has existed actually since the 1990s, maybe 1990. It's existing law. And they are operating under it. It requires that nobody, no matter what kind of container, can intentionally break those seals before customs has a chance. But my amendment to the budget bill is simply amending that portion of our customs law, not that prohibits, because it is already prohibited. It's amending the part that had a $25,000 fine that was established in 1990 and increasing it to $100,000. And this is a change in the law. And to clarify that, because it's a larger fine, it just specifies that you can do it in installments if the director agrees. And if you violate those installments, the director has recourse through the Department of Revenue and Taxation. And it helps the director to enforce what his current obligation is, which they have not been enforcing, is if they find this intentional, they can not only fine, but as you see on the back, subsection 2I, existing law, they can suspend the business license of all the principals involved in the violation for 1 year. That's existing law. The rest of these changes are at customs request. From their director all the way down, they had a meeting and went over this with a fine-tooth comb and made these recommendations and testified at the hearing that this they need very much to help them to put some teeth behind their actions so that they can stop the meth. So they are the one who asked for an increased penalty if there is more than one violation. And so that's all this does. It increases the penalties. It doesn't change what the violation is or make a new violation. It should not impede any business that's not violating. existing law. No business should be impacted by this unless they intentionally violate existing law. It actually helps the business because in the prior law, there was no discretion at the director, but they were taking the discretion, and this puts in writing that there will be some discretion of the director to waive the suspension of the business license if the director puts it in writing his analysis of the degree of culpability, meaning if he thinks it was negligence, gross negligence, fraud, an accident, that allows him to take that into consideration. So there should be no negative impact on any business that is trying to comply with the law. But those who are not, or who intentionally violate, like we did see recently, who removed the cargo container, not at customs, without customs consent, they should be prosecuted and they should be penalized. And they should be penalized and prosecuted because those are the theories of how we're going to deter meth. First, we're going to allow customs the ability to inspect these containers before anything gets distributed out of them. Second, we are going to deter them from doing it in the first place because customs now has the ability that they have asked for to increase their fines, to make it worth the penalty. In other words, meth is valuable. And if your fine is too low, it's nothing to pay $25,000 and just keep bringing it in.
Thank you, Senator.
So I ask my colleagues for their support on this. It's just increasing the civil fine on a public law that has been in place since 1990.
Thank you, Senator. On the amendment, there has been an objection. All in favor of the amendment, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion fails. Colleagues, we are on the next amendment.
So I want to ask these Republican senators who are always harping on, oh, we need to do something about meth, the fight against drugs. This is the war against drugs. We're the Republicans. We're the ones who are going to be against the drugs coming in. And they have an opportunity to stop the drugs from being imported through this loophole, a significant one. And they don't vote for it. They're provided every reason, every objective reason, every objective argument to do this. There's even customs says that they're supporting it. This is what they need. These are the tools that we need. Why are the Republicans making all of the excuses for the drug traffickers, for the drug importers? Their entire arguments were based around what's good for the business. But let me tell you what's involved here. This is a customs seal that customs in Guam places on a container where customs, where the inspector by some type of protocol says, you know what, you can go ahead and roll this onto your yard and get it out of here. You can take this to this cleared area. But I'm going to put this seal on it, and it's like a clamp thing. It's you do have to use a bolt cutter in order to break it. So it's not just like a piece of paper or anything. It's an actual lock. I'm going to place this seal on here, and within a certain number of days or hours or whatever, this time we're going to give you a schedule. And sometimes they don't meet their schedule. Sometimes they're backed up. We are going to come, an inspector is going to come to inspect this container. Do not break this seal. And there's a do not break seal, and there's a penalty of whatever stuff on it, right? You have to purposely break that seal. You have to take bolt cutters to that thing and break the seal after receiving those instructions about what the law is in order to get into that container. Why the hell are the Republican senators defending that? And you know what? They should have done this. This is so you heard Senator Sirlahi say, you know, there was new. I did this bill because of news reports about a container where this happened, and it was a construction company. There was one of the subcontractors of the Ukudu power plant project, and it was at the Ukudu site. And it involved Charissa Tenorio and Customs and some other parties connected to Charissa and Josh Tenorio from their court days. But even before that, this was back in 2023, I think it was, if I'm not 2023, 2024. Even before that, I can't even remember the year, but it was during the Calvo administration. You guys remember the Alvendia case? The Alvendia corruption case? Very similar thing. Customs placed custom seals on containers that made their way to a lot. Ed Nangalta, a customs officer at the time, went to do the inspection, found that the seals had been broken, found out that Henry Alvendia had broken the seals, and allegedly, and initiated a lawful process of reporting. Ed Nangalta ended up being retaliated against by the powers who were, because Henry Alvendia was a high up official in customs at the time. Anyway, you know, long story short, he was ousted. He was convicted, all this stuff, right? Henry Alvendia. But this wasn't the legislature's first time to understand that this type of thing happens. And this is how contraband comes in to the island. They've had this example since at least the Alvendia case back in like 2013, 2014, something like that. A federal case. And the legislature still didn't do anything about it. And the only arguments that you hear from them, like you've heard throughout this entire budget, is what is going to be good for the businesses. How are we going to protect the businesses? And then they try to gaslight us by telling us that, however they protect the businesses is protecting us because it trickles down to us. No, my friends, it never, ever effing trickles down to us. They've been selling us that lie for the past 5 decades that it's going to trickle down. How rich are you from that trickle down right now? How secure are you in your home, in your finances, with your family, for your family's posterity? Because of that trickle down. It never trickles down. It is such a lie. And it's so disappointing to see these Republicans who campaigned on and who have told us time and time again that what they are here for is the common man. That they are here to protect our interests, especially against the power of the administration that has been so corrupt. And we saw them 2 years ago and we thought, this is our hope. We're going to elect the Republicans into this legislature. And all they can do is protect big business. They are so full of it. For Kandit News, I'm Troy Torres. You all have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for joining me on this first day of the week. I'm in my pajamas already. I appreciate your time, and God bless you all.
He has that innate talent of even the most difficult times, giving comfort, giving solace, bringing stability. In my 64 years, there are people I've known that have passed away, and there's been Tony that has been there to comfort the family and the loved ones, sometimes the most difficult times of their lives. He could better this community as a public servant, but bring people together, even people with divergent thoughts and philosophies, but in the end, bringing enough comfort, enough stability to a situation that there's a consensus and then resolution and progress that is made. So, I'm so excited. I've seen what a great job Tony's done now back in the legislature. But I do believe that with him as governor, that ability to bring people together, to bring folks even with different perspectives together, it's what this island needs. God bless Atacalvo 2026. God bless Guam.
I'm Tony Atta, and I approve this message.
Transportation, tourism, customs, utilities, and federal and foreign affairs touch every family, every business, every day. Jesse Michael Anderson Lujan believes Guam can be greater together by fighting for cabotage exemption, expanding the Philippine visa waiver program, and opening new doors for tourism investment and opportunity. Vote Jesse Lujan. Leadership you can see. Accountability you can trust.
I'm Jesse Michael Anderson Lujan, and I approve this message.
This past year, we've been focused on moving Guam forward, strengthening oversight in our schools, supporting our veterans, standing up for students and families, and working on policies that open doors for our people. For me, public service has never been about headlines. It's about showing up, listening carefully, and doing the work that matters. There's still more to accomplish, and I'm ready to keep pushing ahead. I'm Senator Vince Borja, and I humbly ask for your continued support.